All right, assalamu alaikum, dear believers. Again, very excited to have you with us here today. Um, Praise be to Allah. We seek His help and we seek His forgiveness. We seek refuge with Allah from the evil of our souls and from the evil of our bad deeds. Whomsoever Allah guides will never be led astray, and whomsoever Allah leaves astray, no one can guide. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, the one having no partner, and I bear witness that Muhammad, peace be upon him, is his servant and his messenger. Very excited today. It's a great time of year, and I know, we don't celebrate Christmas and we don't endorse or subscribe to some of the holidays that make up what we traditionally know as the holiday season in the United States of America. But as Muslims who live in the United States, I think it is important for us to take advantage of the time that we are given to spend, precious, valuable time with our families. Many of us who have children who are in college, they are away from school, so they're home. So it's nice to be able to spend time with them here. Some of us, depending on, where you work or what you do for your job, you have a couple of days off during this time. So it's a nice time to be able to take advantage of, to spend with our families, to reconnect with our loved ones, to reconnect with our friends. And so whether or not we of course don't celebrate the holiday, but it's a great opportunity for us to reconnect in ways that we often don't have a chance to during the regular year. The topic of today's Taleem is 5 tips and 2 reminders to help us accomplish our New Year's resolutions. I said that this was an exciting time of year because we get a chance to spend it with our families, but it's also an exciting time of year because we have the excitement of what's coming. Every year this time we are thinking about what the next year is going to bring. And so the topic of today's conversation, I think, is relevant because as we're thinking about what's to come in 2022, we're oftentimes making resolutions. We're thinking about the ways in which we want to improve our lives. And so what I want to do today is to help us think about how we can move beyond just sort of setting empty resolutions that we tend to forget by the time February rolls around, and really make them stick, right? So if we think about the establishment of a list of ways in which we want to improve our lives, a question that we need to ask ourselves is, well, how is it that we can set the conditions up so that we are successful, so that inshallah in December of 2022, we're reflecting on the year saying, everything that I set out to accomplish, or most things that I set out to accomplish, I was able to accomplish. And so what I want to do today is I want to provide you all with 5 tips, nothing earth-shattering, but just some ways for you to begin to think about not just New Year's resolutions. Again, it's not about New Year's necessarily. It's really about setting goals and accomplishing them, right? And we can do that at any time, right? There are always things that we want to improve about our lives, and we don't need a particular date or a particular holiday to ignite our desire to want to accomplish those goals. So I'm putting it within the context of New Year's because we are coming upon New Year's Eve and New Year's Day and all those things. And so it's relevant to this particular time period, but I want to be mindful of the fact that you don't have to wait for a particular day to get started. One could argue that the minute you get the urge to improve your life, the minute you get the urge to change something about your life that you don't currently like, the minute you get the urge, you should start, right? Like, I remember being a athlete, some years ago, and I would fall out of shape, and I'll have to get ready for the upcoming season, and I always had to get started on a Monday. I don't know why, but it's like, okay, on Monday I want to get started. On Monday I want to start working out. On Monday I want to start eating right, and I remember talking with a teammate of mine. He said, man, why you got to wait till Monday? Like today is Wednesday. Why not get started today? Why not get started at dinner time? Why not get started tomorrow morning when you wake up, right? Tomorrow's not promised. And so, I want to make sure that even as we launch into this conversation, that we are thinking about the reality is we don't know if we're going to make it to New Year's. We don't know if we're going to make it to January of 2022. So if you feel the desire right now, again, to improve your life, if there's something about your life that you want to change, you don't have to wait. Right. So I just want to start there, and then I'm going to go ahead and launch into this conversation. Let me begin by just giving a little bit of history on New Year's and sort of how it came to be. So the Babylonians actually were amongst the first to sort of come up with this concept of resolutions, making New Year's resolutions. And they did so, 4,000 years ago. As part of their 11-day March festival. And what they would do is, they were a monotheistic people. So their way of pleasing the gods, small g, was to set these resolutions. Many of their resolutions were about eliminating debt, which is pretty fascinating, seeing as though many contemporary folk, right? Many people today, when they're thinking about the things they want to change or improve about their lives, a lot of times it's rooted in some sort of financial difficulty or strife. So the Babylonians were sort of the originators of this notion or concept of New Year's resolutions. And so they will, set these resolutions as part of their 11th-day festival, which took place in March. And that's how they would start off their year. The Egyptians sort of, took the guidance from them, and they would celebrate their new year with the flooding of the Nile River. And so they too would sort of, establish a set of goals or resolutions that they would want to make as they entered into the new year. And so this idea of starting fresh or starting new is not something that we created. Like as human beings, we've always had a desire to improve our lives and improve certain elements of it in really tangible, consequential ways. Now, over time, as African American people do, right, we take these ideas that didn't necessarily originate with us, and we improve them and we adapt them, right, to our current lives. And so, what's typically happens in African American communities, certainly in my home, and my mother is from Crystal Springs, Mississippi, excuse me. So I have those, Southern roots, even though, believe it or not, I've never been to Mississippi. My mother is from there. And so in our household, every New Year's Day, as part of the sort of the launching into this new year, we would have black eyed peas, right? And black eyed peas originate from West Africa. And there's a lot of sort of legend surrounding why Black folks in particular eat black eyed peas on New Year's Day. I'll share a couple of sort of legends with you. One in particular is January 1st, 1863, which was the day that the Emancipation Proclamation went into effect. It was told that the newly emancipated African Americans ate black eyed peas on that day because that's all they had access to. And right, so we are associating this new emancipation, this symbolic notion of freedom, right? We know that was a military order and the Confederacy didn't honor it, so it didn't really free anybody practically. But we are attaching sort of this delicacy to this sort of again symbolic notion of freedom. There's another sort of legend that this idea that, hey, if you eat poor on New Year's Day, eating poor meaning eating black eyed peas, then you'll eat fat the rest of the year, right? And again, we don't necessarily subscribe to these things, right? Because we believe in Islam, we believe in the Quran, and so we don't usually get distracted by these things. But again, as African American Muslims, we want to acknowledge the culture that we come from, and that's part of our history, that's part of our culture. There's this other idea that black eyed peas, they swell when you put them in water, right? And so there are folk who say, well, look, they're actually beans. They're not peas. We call them black-eyed peas, but they're actually beans. So as these beans swell in the water, that sort of symbolizes the expansion of wealth, right? So as you eat these black-eyed peas, these swollen beans, if you will benefit from eating these beans, eating these peas, and your wealth will expand as well. And so, these are all things that have become part of the traditions associated with the bringing in of the new year. The food, sort of the festivity around New Year's Day, but most importantly, what most folks do is they set a list of resolutions that they want to make sure that they meet, goals that they want to achieve over the course of the upcoming year. And so I want to start there just to ground us in a little bit of the history around New Year's and why it's such a big deal. I should also mention that Julius Caesar, like most dictators, he's the reason why we celebrate New Year's on January 1st. Like, he made the unilateral decision to make January 1st the new year, as he wanted to honor one of the gods of new beginnings. And I don't remember the god's name, but that was the reason why it was moved to January 1st and why most people subscribe to January 1st as the beginning of the new year. Now, what I want to move to now that we have a little bit of a history lesson, and you got to forgive me, I'm a former history teacher, so I'm always going to lean towards providing a grounding in history whenever possible. What I want to transition to right now is digging in specifically to the 5 tips, right? The 5 tips that we can follow in helping us to accomplish our goals, meet our goals, and achieve, what we resolve to achieve in the new year. Now, this first tip that I want to begin with is important for obvious reasons, but I just want to call it out as a reminder, and that is, as Muslims, making sure that our resolution or our goal for this upcoming year is in alignment with our deen, right? That we should not be in any way setting goals that are going to be displeasing to Allah. And I want to remind us that any goal that we set, regardless of the time of year that we set it, whether it's for New Year's or whether it's some other goal or some other time of year that we're setting goals, it's important that we remember why Allah created us and our purpose here on earth, here in this dunya. And the only reason why we were created was to worship Allah, right? To worship Allah. And I draw our attention to Surah 51, ayat 56 and 58. Allah says, "And I did not create the jinn and mankind except to worship me. Indeed, it is Allah who is the continual provider, the firm possessor of strength. And surely Allah speaks the truth." So there are times in our lives where we want something that's not good for us. And I bear witness to that, to wanting something so bad, thinking that if I just accomplish this thing, or if I just achieve this thing, or if I'm able to purchase this thing, that my life is going to improve tenfold, right? Like, I've had those conversations with myself. I've had those conversations with my loved ones. If I could just accomplish this goal, life is going to be so much better. And it didn't come to fruition. And it took some maturity and some understanding of Islam for me to finally realize that that wasn't what was right for me. Like as much as I wanted it, as much as I prayed for it, Allah said either it's not good for you or you're not ready for it. And so as we think about setting these resolutions and setting these goals for the upcoming year, it is so important that we ensure that it doesn't pull us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that it doesn't pull us away from our deen. and I have learned over the years that whenever I am either setting a goal or whenever I am presented with an opportunity, that I always pray to Allah that if it is good for my deen, if it is pleasing to Allah, if it's good for my family, if it brings me closer to Allah, then make it mine. But if it's not good for my deen, if it's not good for my family, if it's not good for my well-being, then take it away. And that's an abridged version of the prayer, but the essence is clear. Like that we don't want to set goals. We don't want anything. We don't want anything that pulls us further away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't want anything that makes it more difficult, right, for us to be the best Muslims that we can possibly be, right? Because our purpose here on earth is not to accumulate wealth, right? It's not to accumulate wealth. It's not for celebrity. It's not for notoriety. It's not for likes on Twitter or on Facebook. It's none of those things. Like, our purpose is clear and Allah is clear. That our purpose on this earth, the reason why he created us, was to serve him, to worship him. And so as we think about these resolutions, dear brothers and sisters, as we reflect on what is it about my life that I want to improve, let's be certain that it's right for your deen. So that's tip number one. And I would argue that that's the most important one, right? That is the most important one. Moving on to tip number two, be specific. And I'm going to add a word here that you don't see on the slide. If you're able to see my screen, I'm going to add a word, realistic. Let's be specific, but let's also be very realistic about what it is that we resolve to do, what it is that we want to accomplish. And so as you're thinking about setting your goals, as you think about these resolutions, I challenge you to answer two questions and to reflect on two questions. The first is, what specifically do you want to accomplish in 2022, inshallah? Right? If Allah blesses us to see 2022, what is it that we want to accomplish? What specifically do you want to accomplish in 2022? What exactly do you want to improve? What exactly do you want to improve about your life? Because if you're not clear on that, then you're going to end up setting a goal that's ambiguous, right? And ambiguity lessens the likelihood that you're going to achieve the goal. Like, I'll give you an example. I want to lose weight in 2022. That's a goal. That's a resolution that we often set come this time of year. We're coming out of the holidays, and again, we're Muslim, right? But we're still eating sweet potato pie. We're eating bean pie, right? We're eating some turkey and dressing and lots of carbs and lots of sweets. Like, we're not immune to those kinds of things. We come out of this time period sometimes 10, 15, 20 pounds heavier than when we walked into it. So, losing weight is often a resolution, but it's not specific enough. How many pounds do you want to lose? You want to lose just the 15 pounds you put on between October and the end of December? Right? Do you want to lose 25 pounds, 30 pounds? Like, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? Or you might have a financial goal. I want to make more money in 2022. Well, how much do you want to make? Are you trying to, add another $15,000 onto your salary? Do you want to make an additional $300 a month? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? Let's also be realistic. Right. So if you have never engaged in any sort of real physical activity to come into 2022 saying, this year I'm gonna run 5 marathons, well, that's probably not realistic. And alhamdulillah, like maybe you know something that I don't know. Maybe you got one of them dynamite workout plans and you're gonna be ready to go, right? You're gonna be knocking down those marathons. The likelihood of that happening is very slim. So let's set realistic goals. Know that if you are not someone that's engaged in real physical activity, that, you know, you probably won't be able to run a marathon by February, but maybe you can run a marathon by October or November. I don't know, right? But you want your goals to be realistic, right? You don't want to walk into 2022 saying, I want to make an extra $100,000 this year, right? That's probably not realistic, right? And so the reason why it's important to be specific and realistic, brothers and sisters, is because when you aren't, and then you fail to meet the goal, what that does is it saps your confidence, and it reduces your motivation and your desire to accomplish the goal. And it is so difficult. It is, I don't care how disciplined you are, it is so difficult for you to remain motivated and inspired over time. It's easy, right? It's easy right now on December 19th to get fired up about the new year. And then the new year gets here, and all those goals you set, right, they become subsumed by everything else that you got going on in your life. Work, family, other responsibilities, and you forget that, man, I forgot that, like, I set goals. I forgot that I set resolutions back in December. And we see it all the time. I'll give you a couple of examples. I used to go to LA Fitness, and I was pretty consistent. And I would get up and I would get to the gym. I was an early riser, so I'm in the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. And typically there's nobody in there. It's like it was me and 10 other people. And we were known as the morning crew because we were consistently there. Every year, without fail, January would come and the number of people in the gym would multiply tenfold. I mean, it would be deep in the gym at 5 in the morning, right? And then guess what? By February, it's back to the way it was before. Why? Because people's inspiration and motivation wore off. Like, they were no longer fired up anymore. So by the time that February cold came and it snowed outside and they look out the window, they said, oh no, I got to clean off my car before I get in the car to go to the gym. Now I'm straight. I'm just going to sleep this one. I'm going to sleep this morning through, right? I mean, that's what would happen. And so those individuals who were so fired up in January to be in the gym, they lost it. They lost their motivation. And now February comes and they're no longer working out. Or you might resolve to eat better, right? So it's December, and you say, you know what? I'm gonna come out of these heavy carb-filled dinners, in December, and I'm gonna walk into January and I'm gonna start eating right. I'm gonna eat salads and I'm gonna juice and I'm gonna cleanse. And you do it for 2 weeks, and then you look up and you back in the Popeye's chicken line, right? You back in the drive-through because that motivation, that inspiration has worn off, right? And so what I want to remind us of is, one, we want to be specific, but we also want to be realistic. So for you to say, come January, I'm never eating Popeye's chicken again, or come January, I'm never eating KFC again, I don't want to see McDonald's again. You know what? That's not realistic. I'm never going to drink Diet Coke again. No, that's not realistic. All right. So let's take some baby steps and let's say, hey, you know what? If I eat KFC, if I eat fill in the blank restaurant, I'm only going to do it once a week. Right? I'm not going to drink Diet Coke all day. I'm gonna treat myself to one Diet Coke a day to start reducing my calories, to begin to wean my body off of its reliance on Diet Coke. Like, being realistic, but also being specific, meaning if you want to save money, I want to save more money next year. Great. That's a great resolution. Well, check this out. Well, how much are you going to save per week? How much money are you going to save per week? Right? You got to be that specific. I want to save $50 a week. I want to save $25 a week. Right? You don't want to be caught in this trap of ambiguity and not accomplish the goal because you really weren't sure what you set out to accomplish in the first place. You really weren't sure what you were resolving to accomplish in the first place. And that lack of clarity leads to confusion, and that confusion will then sap your motivation. Let's talk about 2A. Now, this isn't a separate one. This is attached to number 2, which is be specific and be realistic. And 2A is you also have to be rooted in your why. Why are you doing this in the first place? Are you setting these goals just because everybody else is? Because you just have been conditioned at the beginning of the year or whatever, you know, that you want to make a list of resolutions because it's popular. We all gonna throw it up on Facebook or whatever. Like, is that why you're doing this? Or is there something more meaningful behind it? Because you heard me say a few minutes ago that inspiration and motivation tends to wear off. Well, the reason why it wears off is because people aren't rooted in their why. They're not rooted in a sense of purpose. And so when the tough times hit, when the snow is on the ground that early morning in February, you're not rooted in your why. You're not going to leave your warm bedroom to go put on boots and pack a bag to go to the gym because you don't really even know why you're doing it to begin with. You're not rooted in your sense of purpose. There's an African proverb that says, a tree with strong roots doesn't fear stormy winds. Like, I don't care how hard you blow. I'm on my square. I'm rooted in my purpose. I don't care if it's 6 feet of snow outside. I'm going to the gym. Why? Because I'm trying to live. I'm trying to lower my blood pressure. I'm trying to get off of this diabetes medication, whatever it is. I'm saving $50 a week. Why? Because I need to start putting money towards my son's college fund. So I'm not going to spend that $50 because there's a purpose. There's a reason why I need to save more money. I want to find a new job in 2022. Why? Because this job that I'm currently in is not fulfilling and is not helping me to be my best self. So I am motivated and inspired and committed to putting myself in a different environment so I can grow. Like, I'm not just doing this because it's the end of the year. I'm doing it because I have a sense of purpose. I know exactly why I'm doing it. And so when I hit tough times or I get some pushback, I'm so strong in my roots, I'm not swaying by it. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to come off of my desire to pursue this particular goal because I know why I'm doing it to begin with. And in life, so many of us, we just do things because it's what we've always done, right? We get trapped. We get trapped on this treadmill of inertia. Like, I'm just going along to get along. I'm just going along and I don't really know why I'm doing anything. I don't know why I get up and go to work every day. It's because that's what I've been doing for the last 15 years. Right? And Ma'am Tariq reminds us of this when we're talking about even about prayer. Right, to make sure that our salat is done with authenticity and a sense of genuineness, that is not just a ritual that we get up and do 5 times a day. Like, understanding, why am I making salat? Why am I coming to Allah with a grateful heart? Right, it's the same mindset. Everything we do should be done with purpose. Everything we do should be done with purpose. Every goal we set should be done with a sense of purpose. That I am doing this because it's important. And these are the ways that it's important. And you should be able to speak to those things without equivocation. Right? Without equivocation. And sometimes when you say, well, why are you doing that, brother or sister? Why are you setting that goal? And, you know, as my old English teacher used to say, you get the 2 twins, run, duh, meaning they don't even know why. I don't know. I don't know why I want to save extra $50. I want to buy some new Gator shoes. I mean, I don't really know, right? I don't know why I'm trying to lose weight. I haven't attached it to a real meaning. I just want to lose weight. I don't know. We got to think about that. We got to think about that because, again, the way our lives are set up, it's very difficult for us to accomplish our goals unless we have a real sense of why, a real sense of purpose, be deeply rooted, right? Deeply rooted, like that tree that doesn't care how hard the wind is blowing. That my roots are so deep, are so firm, that I'm not worried about that, that I know that despite whatever difficulties are waiting for me, and I know there will be difficulties, that I'm going to be able to push through because I'm firm in my understanding of the sense of purpose around this idea. Tip 3, make a plan. Make a plan. And I know some of you are saying like, yo, this is, yeah, duh, like this is so like commonsensical. But you'll be surprised at how many people set a goal, but then have no plan on how to get there. Have no plan on how to get there. So how are you planning to save more money next year? What's your strategy? What's your strategy? I don't have one. So the money's just gonna end up in your account. Like it's gonna happen by osmosis, by some sort of miracle. Like that's not how it works. So every goal that we set, whether we're planning to set a goal for 2022, or whether we got goals that we want to set for next week, inshallah, whatever the goal is, whatever the time that's associated with that goal, doesn't matter. Got to have a plan for how you want to get there. And that's the work. The easy part is setting the goal. The hard part is putting the work in to accomplish it. The easy part is setting the resolution. The hard part is putting the work in behind making sure that you achieve what you resolve to achieve. And I don't want to be prescriptive here. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you what you need to do and how to make the plan. Right? There's a variety of different ways that you do it, right? But we know that in Islam, planning in Islam they go hand in hand with one another. Because we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of planners. He's the best of planners and has decreed everything according to precision, according to a process. And so if we subscribe to the sunnah of Allah, right? If we subscribe to that, then we know the importance of sitting down and coming up with a detailed process by which we're going to accomplish what we set out to accomplish. So if it is, I want to save more money next year, then the first question you have to ask yourself, well, first, how much are you planning to save? And then two, let's break that out over 52 weeks. Let's break that out over 12 months. How much money do we have to save every month? What account am I putting it in so that I don't tap into it, right? And I begin to dwindle down the amount of money that I'm saving because I decide I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna get $20 out here and I'm gonna get $15 out here, and I look up and by the end of the year I haven't accomplished my goal. What's your plan to make sure that you save it? Right? If you're trying to lose weight in 2022, what steps are you gonna take? What commitments are you willing to make in order to accomplish that goal? Is it you're gonna drink one less soda every day? Is it you're gonna cut eating carbs after 2 o'clock? Right? If you're looking to find a better job next year, right, then you got to ask yourself, well, how many interviews or job applications? Let's start there. How many job applications are you going to submit, each month to make sure that you can start interviewing to get the kind of job that you want? Like these are the kinds of things, right, that we want to start asking ourselves, right? That these, no goal is reachable without a plan. And I want to steer clear of the cliches here, but I'll use one here because it's appropriate, right? If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail, right? It's that simple. And so many of us, myself included, now as I'm talking to you, I'm talking to myself and I'm reminding myself, we say all these things that we want to do, but then we don't have a plan for it. And just so you all know that I'm not like pointing fingers at anybody, I put myself on blast right now. I've been trying to write a book for 18 months. I've written one paragraph towards the completion of that book. Why? Because I haven't planned for it. I haven't set any benchmarks. I haven't said, okay, by the end of this month, I'm going to have the introduction written. By the end of this month, I'm going to have chapter 1. Like I haven't done that. I haven't put it on my calendar. I haven't carved out the writing time so that I can, commit that I am going to, during these times, I'm going to write for this hour to make sure I'm making progress. I haven't set out a plan. And so the reality is this, and I'll say this to myself as I say it to you, if you don't have a plan for how you're going to achieve what you set out to achieve, then you really don't want to achieve the thing you said you want to achieve. I mean, that's the reality of it. That's the reality of it. I can talk all day about how I want abs, but I can't stop eating ice cream after 9 o'clock. Well, guess what? I'm not going to have abs. I'm not serious about it. Right. So again, sometimes And again, as I'm talking to you, I'm talking to myself. Sometimes there's a misalignment between our goals and our actions. And our actions, that's the plan. That's the plan, right? Those are the things that we're going to do, the commitments that we're going to make to accomplish what we said we wanted to accomplish. It's really quite simple, right? But we make a couple of mistakes whenever we set goals, right? Again, one is they lack specificity. We're not really sure what it is we're trying to accomplish. We don't really know why we're doing it, right? And so when you have that lack of clarity, then it really is hard to come up with a plan. You know, I just want a better job. Well, what kind of job you want? Why do you want that job? What are you willing to do to get the job? Like all of those things come together. And if we aren't intentional about making sure that we're addressing all of those questions, right, then we're not going to accomplish what it is we set out to accomplish. Step 4, you got to track your progress. You got to track your progress. Meaning you have to be able to ask yourself at different checkpoints, how close am I to accomplishing what I set out to accomplish? How close am I to accomplishing what I set out to accomplish? Where am I going wrong? Where am I going wrong? What's getting in the way? What are the barriers? You also got to track your progress for another very, very important reason. This is something that we oftentimes don't do a very good job of. And that's, you got to celebrate those small wins. Right? I'm going to use the weight loss example because that's one I think that we all can resonate with. Right? We all have had a point in our lives. Some of us are going through it right now. We're trying to drop some pounds to, improve our health. Cool. Well, you got to lose 1 pound before you can lose 50. But we've been conditioned in sort of this microwave society, like we just expect the 50 just going to drop. And so we don't celebrate until we get to the 50. Like now you got to celebrate the 1 pound loss, the 1.5 pound loss, the 2 pound loss, right? But if you're not tracking your progress, then you can't do that, right? You got to save, $5 before you can save $50,000. So you got to celebrate. You got to track your progress towards the goal by saying, man, this month I saved $25. Well, guess what? That's something to be celebrated. That's $25 more than you may have saved the previous month. Again, I use the example of writing the book. Hey, if I write 1 paragraph, I got to pat myself on the back. Hey, that's 1 more paragraph than I had the day before yesterday. So you got to track your progress. And, there's a lot of ways you can do that. Some people keep a journal, right? And they jot down their progress in their journal. Today I submitted 2 applications, right? And they're able to track it every single day. I submitted 2 applications last month, and I got 3 interviews next month as a result of those applications. Like if you're looking for a better job, or hey, this week I lost 2.5 pounds. My goal next week is to lose another 2.5 pounds. You're tracking your progress, right? Hey, it's 6 months into the year, and I have saved a total of $350. Hey, that's good. Your goal, I want to save $700 by the end. Great. Let's track that progress. Let's celebrate those small wins. Let's celebrate those small wins. So much of our ability to accomplish our goals is driven by our mindset, right? Our mental and our emotional health. And so if you are, again, setting those unrealistic goals where you have no shot of making it, you end up beating yourself up. And at the end of the day, all that does is put you in a sunken place. And you just feel like you can't get out of it. And that's how people go from setting a resolution of losing, 15 pounds in 2022 to actually gaining 30 pounds by the end of the month, end of the year, excuse me, right? Because they weren't realistic, 1. 2, they didn't have a plan. And so as things start to unfold and they're not seeing the kind of progress that they wanted to see, they feel bad about themselves, they beat up themselves, and now they end up lightweight depressed. And so now the idea, right? The idea of getting mentally organized to accomplish a goal seems too daunting and overwhelming, and they end up actually in a worse place than what they started. Right. So the importance of tracking progress is essential. I can't underscore that enough, because it's our way of celebrating every step that we take towards the goal. Right. And it feels so hard when you are in the midst of it. It's like, oh, this feels like it's forever. Then you look up and 6 months have passed, and it's like, wow, like I did this thing for 6 months, and I'm reaping the benefits of it. Or you'll look up and be like, man, 6 months went by so fast, and I've done nothing. Right. And so again, you want to make sure that we are, you're putting yourself in the right frame of mind, and that you're using these types of tools. And again, it could be a journal, it could be a spreadsheet, it could be whatever you want it to be. Find the mechanism or the tool that works best for you to track your progress. Last tip before I share a couple of reminders with you. It is important that you have an accountability partner or partners that you share your goals and your resolutions with. Like, don't keep it secret. Don't keep it secret. Anything worth accomplishing usually requires the support of others. Usually. Right now, maybe some of you can, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to tell anybody because, whatever reason, haters going to hate, whatever we tell ourselves, why you got to keep a secret, right? But you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you feel siloed or isolated or cut off. Like, you want to surround yourself with folks who are going to champion your cause, right? I mean, you want to surround yourself with folks who are going to champion your cause. I mean, it's no different than, we talk about students and, being in school, and, every kid needs a champion. Rita Pearson gave a phenomenal TED talk. She was a longtime educator, said every kid needs a champion. Every kid needs to have somebody in the school that's going to root for that student and push that student and love on that student and encourage them when they are going through tough times so they can be their best selves. Well, look, as adults, even though we like to think we're so different, we're not. Like, we need a champion too. Right? Whether it's your spouse, whether it's your children, whether it's your homeboy or whatever it is, right? It could be anybody that you trust that is invested in your well-being, that really wants to see you be successful, right? Not people you kind of halfway think, like people who have already shown you that they care about you. They want you to be your best self. Those are the people that you want to serve as your accountability partner. Like, if you're married and you're trying to eat right, you're trying to get yourself together and eat right and exercise, like, it's hard to do that if your spouse is not on the same page with you. It just is. All right, you coming home, you eating celery sticks and they eating cheese sticks. You know what I mean? Like, that's hard, man. Smelling good. They got that greasy bag. You know what I'm talking about? We all know what that looks like, right? It's hard to stay committed when you don't have somebody walking the journey with you. Right? It's hard to stay committed when somebody is saying, hey, brother Lionel, like, how's that book coming for you? Because eventually you're gonna get tired of telling people, I still ain't started. Like, nobody wants to feel like they have failed or disappointed somebody, especially somebody that they love or that they care about, whose opinion they value. Right. So you want to tell people who love you and who have already poured into you, want to say, hey, I'm trying to accomplish this, and I need you to help hold me accountable. It could be something as simple as, I want to do a better job of making Fajr prayer every morning. I need you to help me. Can you call me before you make Fajr in the morning? Or can you check on me and nudge me to make sure it could be something like that. I mean, that's the beauty of being in a community. That's the beauty of being in the community, is that, part of our responsibility as a community is that we hold each other accountable. Not in a mean, negative, shaming way, but like, hey, look, we here all in this together. Like, we all, having our times through Ramadan, but it's easier when you're doing it as a community, right? Because we could talk about how dry our mouths are collectively and that pain that we get in our stomach. Like, there's beauty in those conversations, right? To push each other through. It's no different here, right? Like, the goal is to improve our lives in meaningful ways. Well, man, like, share that journey. I need you to get my back. Help me through this. I'm struggling. right? So there's power in that, in having an accountability partner. There's a power in having somebody to work out with. There's power in having somebody to read Quran with. There's power in having somebody to eat right with. Like there's power in that, right? Because you all are pouring into one another. And then you don't feel like you're isolated and going at this alone, right? Now, those are the 5 tips. Let me just share 2 reminders with you before we wrap up. I use this a lot because when I'm working with school leaders, folks who have had, typically a great deal of success, and they've made it. It's hard for them to sometimes get them to think differently and to begin to do things differently because they have done things a certain way and they've succeeded because of it, right? So I use this because I want them to understand that part of my responsibility, and for those that don't know, I'm a leadership coach. One of the things I do, and so I try to push people outside of their comfort zone. And even in this conversation, look, I'm hoping, inshallah, I'm hoping that something that's being shared with you not only motivates and inspires you, but if I'm being frank, I really want to make you uncomfortable. I want to make you a little bit uncomfortable. I hope that something, you heard something that said, oh, that's me. Like, that's me in that KFC line, drive-through line in February after I said I was going to eat better. Like, that's me. Because that discomfort is what compels you to action. And so for all of us, and again, I'm saying this to myself as well, because I'm a creature of habit. I'm a creature of habit, and I like to be comfortable like everybody else. We all do. But man, like, the comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing grows there. Nothing grows there. And so if we are trying to be our best selves, if we're thinking about this in terms of like, how do I improve my life in tangible ways, whether we're talking about New Year's resolutions or whatever it is, setting goals, whatever the context, right? If we're talking about improving our lives, whatever it is, it requires us to step outside of our comfort zone, to do something that we've never done, right? To accomplish something that you have never accomplished is going to require you to do something you've never done. That's the reality. It's easy. Let me say that. It's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. Now, if you want a different outcome for your life, if you want something better in your life, then guess what? You can't keep doing what you've always done. Again, I use myself as an example. If I want to be as fit as I say I want to be out loud, then guess what? I got to start making some changes in my diet. That's uncomfortable. That ice cream made me feel good, right? That bad food that we eat, it makes us feel good. It's addictive. That's why we eat so much of it, right? That job that we're in right now, that we just kind of going through the motions, like we know how to do the job. We've done it for years. But if we really want to be our best selves, man, maybe it's going to require us to find a new gig. Allah knows. But we get trapped in comfort, right? And we get lulled to sleep with comfort. I mean, I don't want to get political, but I'll use the election of President Obama as an example of us getting trapped in comfort. Like, hey, we thought everything was good. We had a black president. We straight. People talking about post-racial America. All is well. No color exists in America anymore. We're the land of diversity. Okay. We got lulled to sleep. Then boom, Trump kicked the rock over. Now where are we? We got comfortable. We got to step outside our comfort zone. We got to push ourselves beyond our edges of expertise. If you're good at something, then do something else so you can get better at something else. So as we think about our goals, let's set goals that's going to help us be better people and stretch us beyond where we are right now. Here's the last thing that I'm going to leave you with, inshallah. This is what most people think success looks like. They think it's linear. They think they take one step and then boom, they're going to realize the success. Here's what it really looks like. It's a jumbled mess. There's stops, there's starts, there's do-overs, there's restarts before you realize success. You read any narrative, any memoir from anybody who is deemed to be successful, and then we got to be mindful of how we define success. Let's be honest about that. But you know, however you define success in your mind right now, however you define it, success is non-linear, right? You just don't necessarily go from being an entry-level employee to being a CEO in, 4, 5, 6 nice and neat steps. Like, it doesn't happen. You might have to leave and go somewhere else and serve as an entry-level employee somewhere else for another couple of years. You might have to leave that position, go to another, that's just how it works. And so the reason why I'm ending with this particular slide is because I just want to remind everybody that, look, you're not going to be as successful as you want to be all the time. Like, you're going to have to fail. You know, I heard a brother the other day say fail it stands for the, first attempt in learning, right? Like, you got to get comfortable with failure. You got to get comfortable with discomfort. As we set these goals, as we resolve to improve our lives, understand that with our quest, our desire for improvement, that we will be tested. We will be tested. Allah says we will be tested. That because we are Muslims and because we have faith and we believe, that doesn't absolve us from the test. As a matter of fact, it might magnify them, it might amplify the test that we're going through. Right? So we have to be mindful of that. That applies to our daily lives, right? That everything we do, everything that we're trying to pursue is not going to come in a nice, neat package. And it's okay to fail. Matter of fact, expect to fail. Expect to fail. Once you expect to fail, then failure won't knock you off your spot. Then failure will be welcome. Like, I'm supposed to fail because this is important to me. Matter of fact, if I didn't fail, then it's probably too easy. I'm probably in my comfort zone and I need to find something else to do because I'm not stretching myself intellectually, emotionally enough. Expect to fail. Thank you all so much. I pray, inshallah, that you got something out of today's Taleeem, today's presentation. If you got anything good from this talk, it's all from Allah. You know, I pray to Allah that He would use me as a vessel to give a word that would help touch folks in positive ways. If I offended anybody, if I said anything that didn't make sense, if I made any mistakes, that's on me. And I accept full responsibility for that. Let's end in prayer, inshallah. Wallah. Inna Allah fi kusri. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati. Watawassaw bil haqq, watawassaw bis sabr. Amen. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you spending this afternoon with me. And again, inshallah, you found this experience valuable and helpful for you moving forward. I'm going to stop the recording now.